Lots of news in Egypt today. The U.S.'s closest Middle East allies, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, they're undercutting American policy in Egypt, encouraging the military to confront the Muslim Brotherhood rather than reconcile. Matt Bradley, he's in Egypt this morning. Matt, good morning.
Good morning.
Even before we get to that, I want you to talk about other developments today in Egypt. First of all, you're in Minya in Upper Egypt, where tell us what's going on up there.
Well, the reason I'm here is because there's been a rash of attacks against churches and Christian-owned businesses and even a Christian-owned orphanage by people who are suspected to have been the Islamists who are supporters of President Mohamed Morsi. So this is a very troubling development. Even though very few people have died in these incidents, it kind of to the backlash that's come from the military coup that ousted President Morsi in early July.
Okay, another bit of news this morning. The AP is reporting Egypt announced the arrest of the supreme leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, dealing a blow to the Islamist group. Tell us about that.
That's right. Mohamed Badia was arrested this morning. That is a blow to the Islamist group, but you know, Mohamed Badia was only one leader among several, and he wasn't necessarily even considered one of the top people within the group. I mean, he was officially the head. But there's a lot of looming figures who lead the Muslim Brotherhood, and of course the goings-on behind closed doors are not entirely known by the general public. But this would be a big blow to the organization, and it really kind of cements the level of it really shows the extent to which the government is trying to rein in this group and decapitate it, cut off its top leadership.
Okay, let's move over now. Chuck Hagel, the U.S. Defense Secretary, said yesterday that America's ability to influence the outcome in Egypt is, quote, limited. Now, tell us about that, especially as it relates to all of our allies who seem to be working at cross purposes relative to what the administration wants.
Well, American influence in Egypt has always been limited. The fact of the matter is that the $1.3 billion in military aid that the U.S. has given to Egypt every year for decades only been able to buy us certain perks, but it hasn't really been able to buy us so much backroom influence. Hosni Mubarak, who, if you remember, was deposed in February of 2011, he routinely bucked U.S. advice when it came to human rights abuses, democracy reform. So it shouldn't be so much of a surprise that now that U.S. influence and U.S. advice to General Sisi and others has been blunted by just simply the acknowledgement by this Egyptian government that they can weather any U.S. criticism, and that they can essentially, that the U.S. feels as though they need Egypt more than Egypt needs America. Mm-hmm. The military aid that the U.S. gives to Egypt is dwarfed by the amount of money that was just given from some of these Gulf states like Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. So while that money, that military cash, actually comes in the form of much-needed hardware, military expertise, and training, in terms of just money, Egypt can easily find that from just about anybody else.
And where are the Saudis getting that money, which is kind of ironic. But Matt, what is that money? What is the policy that the Saudis, even the Israelis, the Emiratis, what is it that they're looking for?
Well, the policy is simply that they were very satisfied with General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's decision to depose Mohamed Morsi, who they consider to be a direct threat. Now, the Israelis, of course, have a lasting suspicion of Islamist politicians, especially in Egypt, which sits on their border. But Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates are very suspicious of Mohamed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood, because the Muslim Brotherhood is a very large, shadowy organization that has tentacles in Muslim countries throughout the world, and even in Europe and the United States. So they were worried that the Muslim Brotherhood, in a position of leadership in the Middle East, in the Arab world's largest country, could possibly instigate uprisings within their own countries. Pro-Islamist groups could be energized by the Muslim Brotherhood governance in Egypt.
Okay, Matt Bradley in Egypt, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.